Hi, we're at Cinec 2018 in Munich, and I'm joined by Elen Lotman of the Estonian Society of Cinematographers, Nina Kellgren of the British Society of Cinematographers, and Ron Johansen of the Australian Society of Cinematographers. These benches have never held such an illustrious bunch of cinematographers.
Now the Cinec is very lucky.
Yes,
Very lucky.
we're very lucky as well. You're all here as part of IMAGO, which is tying together all of those societies around the world. Because, I mean, you said the Estonian societies are just 12 members, aren't they? You're the president, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I'm very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, Estonian society is one of the smallest societies in the world. At the same time, we have the total of 52 members of the society. 53 now.
In IMAGO.
In IMAGO, and starting from Estonia, which is 12 members, up until BVK, which is thousands of members. So it's a very, very different and a lot of very different societies from all over the world. Our name is European, but actually we're global, so we do have members. Australia, Japan is our member. We have members from Latin America, so India. So we are trying to get the voice of the cinematographers from all over the world channeled into one, and
And we were talking a little bit earlier on, just before the interview, that IMAGO really is, you set up various working parties by the sounds of it to focus on specific areas of the industry. Can you talk me through some of those?
Yes, so the IMAGO has various committees, if you like, working parties, dealing with
we have
authorship rights, working conditions, education, masterclasses, creative technologies. Masterclass, I guess, comes under the education. And we also have a diversity and inclusion committee to attempt to address the massive imbalance we have in the film industry.
Yes, and hopefully we're at the beginning of what will turn out to be a seismic change in the way attitudes are. Cinematography, well, the whole film industry has been a very male-dominated world, hasn't it, for decades?
White male-dominated.
White, yes, yeah. And it's people are talking about it now, and it's not it's not taboo subject or anything. It's out there in the open, and hopefully, I mean, we used the example earlier on of my children, a boy and a girl. The boy grew up, think I'm going to do this, just assumes he can do it. My daughter was thinking, can I do this? Should I do this? And that's ingrained in us, isn't it? And so in this industry, do you find that's even worse?
Indeed. So one of the things that this committee does, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, is we run daily events at Camerimage, which is the big cinematographers festival, platforming and profiling the work of fantastic female DPs, well, and others, BAME DPs. So we have Charlotte, we had, do you want me to name them? No. Okay. Natasha Breo, Charlotte Bruce Christensen, Rachel Morrison, and Janneke Mikkelsen, who's huge in VR.
I have to say, with Rachel being the first female cinematographer to be nominated for an Oscar, and everything else happening, it really feels like a watershed moment. And what's important for us is that we created this committee, which we co-chair, in order to make ourselves redundant. So our idea is not to be committing. The day when we say that there is no need to be doing events for gender and diversity, it's the happiest day of our lives. We say we stop the committee.
Exactly.
Super.
And it's not just about women, it's the bigger picture. It's everybody who's been excluded, really, or discouraged, in a sense. It's just, your daughter has to ask the question.
That's it.
Well, all we want to is shift that so she doesn't have to ask the question. Or anybody who's kind of on the outside of the film industry doesn't have to ask the question. They can see themselves there doing that job.
Yeah. The other thing you're saying, the authorship rights, I mean, that's a big change, isn't it? That a cinematographer can be recognised as having authorship over the image that's being portrayed. Co-authorship. But you said, it's pretty patchwork. Some countries, it's already in action, but others...
Yeah, it's, for instance, in our part of the world, in Australia and the South Pacific, and Britain as well. I know America's the same, although Americans are not members of IMAGO, but they are nevertheless an industry leader, the ASC. We don't have authorship rights, and probably, to be honest, are quite likely never to receive it. But it seems to be more prevalent in Europe and Scandinavia in particular. Yeah.
So it's important to remember that IMAGO was established as gaining authorship rights for cinematographers as one of its goals in 26 years ago. And why it is so important, of course, from one side we're talking about residuals and cinematographers getting fair share of the work they do, but really the most important part in our view and our authorship committee, which also has honorary members of Just Vocano and Luciana Tovoli, who is really advocating for this, and Vittorio Storaro, is that even more importantly nowadays, but used to happen already some time ago, is that cinematographers are left out from, let's say, color grading or places where really the image is locked down. And if you own co-authorship of the image, your work cannot be altered. So it is to protect the integrity of cinematographers' work.
Let me just to say one thing. There have been instances where world-acclaimed cinematographers have been shut out of the final grade. Oh yeah, some very famous names that turn up to do a colour grade and they can't get into the studio because for whatever reason. Someone said, well, no, we don't need them. It's just intolerable.
Do you think that disconnect is also, in a way, it's been facilitated by the way technology has come along that allows, we've said before, that just because something can be done doesn't mean you have to do it, and just because you can have so many options with, the picture, whatever it is you're doing, doesn't mean that you have to do it. You need, that eye needs to be on it. That's where the art and the skill of a cinematographer, from purely the creative point of view of the image.
Yeah, may I?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So IMAGO is all about valuing the art of the cinematographer. Absolutely. You get employed for your eye and also your ability to actually understand the director. The director can feel that you can interpret their vision, basically. And that's the key thing. I mean, the technology is to service that process. It's not to drive it.
No.
And it also seems that with the abundance of everything, with the abundance of images, with the abundance of choices, the more and more we have interactive storytelling, etc., I think actually the role of the storyteller becomes more important, not less important. And if you look at, let's say, there are YouTube channels of one person playing a video game and thousands of people watching this one person playing a game, although they could be playing it themselves and they shouldn't watch somebody doing this. So there is so much stories out there, so many images out there, and I think that the talent, the skill, and the work that cinematographer puts in there becomes more and more relevant, actually.
Sorry, just quickly, it's also the fact that the cinematographer and the director have not only worked on this show on the floor, but there's been months of work prior to it, and as they're going along, it's a constant evolution. It changes, it grows on the set, and so in many ways it's a lack of respect from whomever makes that final decision to not let the cinematographer be there at the finish. I mean, he and the director are partners in this work, so it's not necessarily the directors who say no. It's another higher source, and it's just a complete lack of respect.
And to add into it is that often what audiences see is what is on the screen, and they don't see the whole work, what is behind it, and everything that is put into it, the teamwork, the planning, etc. And this is why I think the masterclass that IMAGO is organizing is wonderful. It's called Inspiration, and in this masterclass, famous cinematographers, worldwide known cinematographers, show the background of the work. They talk about what inspired them. They talk about all what we don't read from the screen, and where we see actually how much work goes into it, and how it really is an art, and not like arbitrary decisions of wide shot or close up.
And you said earlier on, another hugely important skill of a cinematography is managing people, because on that set, it's you know how you want that to look, but you have to marshal all of the people and skills and everything there to do that. So is that learned? Is it something that you have? Is it a personality trait? Are you bossy?
I think we've all got well, yes, obviously. That goes in the DP. In a sense, of course you are. But of course they're absolutely crucial to your team, and you build the team around you, and it's really hard when you can't get a member of your team that used to working with you, but there's the of course, there are many fabulous technicians out there. So what am I saying about people skills? But not only that, there's another aspect to it as well, which you put the right crew, especially at the front end, everyone who's around the camera, for the kind of director you have. So you might have 2 or 3 first ACs that you work with, but one actually will have a different kind of presence or create a different kind of atmosphere, and you judge that, and that's not a machine process.
George Miller considers his camera crew and the camera crew, the area around the camera crew, his area of tranquility.
Yeah.
And he knows when he enters that area, everybody's on his side, and they're all working to the same end good result. So he will only employ people who work harmoniously together in that environment, which is a big thing, big thing.
I mean, if it's quiet on set, it's all working well.
Actually, your question taps into two issues. One, when you ask if we are bossy, it's interesting. It's one of the things that has been brought out in terms of gender balance, is that if women are being on the position of power, they're considered bossy, and if men are being on the position of power, they're considered just good leaders. So, in a way, I hope, in the end, the people who make it into the serious world of cinematography are actually just people who are visionary and good leaders. Good leaders not being bossy, but good leaders in planning, preparing, and also the teamwork that you do. This taps into one of the important issues that we have, is working conditions. You can only do your work well if you're treated as a human being, and quite often our crews suffer working conditions which are subhuman in very many countries. IMAGO does have an overview of how in some countries how long the shooting days are, how people are treated, how they don't have any days off, 7-week working weeks, etc. So this is also one of the things that we do. We have to take care of our crews because we are all standing on the shoulders of giants. A cinematographer alone is unable to do anything if he doesn't have a good and rested and happy crew.
Yeah. And that didn't exist at all before IMAGO came along. Was there a voice? Was there a voice for that before IMAGO came along?
Yes, there's been a murmur. Yes, there's been a murmur, and the cinematographer was invariably the leader of that. He or she were the one person that people would gravitate to on set, and that still happens today. But it wasn't as vocal as it is now, and quite openly vocal and discussed.
Do you feel, going off that a little bit, do you feel that the cinematographer has the hardest job in the sense that you have to hold that vision for the film, that idea for the look of it, you've got that all the way through? The director isn't concerned with those bits so much, and like you say, the good cinematographer is working hand in hand with that director, so that the cinematographer has a huge weight on the shoulders. You've got to do all of those things correctly, but now, and it's taken a while, the public do understand what a cinematographer does. Go back 10 years, they wouldn't. What's a cinematographer?
Yeah, they wouldn't know.
Can I just say to that, I would say, but you also have the most rewarding job on set. Okay, you do have all that, but there is no other job like it. If it works, it's just profoundly. You don't get tired. You don't get, you don't feel hungry. It's one of those transposing activities.
IMAGO did a survey among cinematographers, the international global survey about our living and working conditions. And what comes out when we ask questions about the livelihoods is that this job, you don't have a social security, you don't have holidays, you can't make any plans, your family crumbles, you don't have pension. And the last question was, if you could choose again, would you choose this job again? And the majority, everybody said yes. So it's not a job, it's a disease.
Really?
You can't. Once you've got the virus, you will never heal.
It becomes an obsession.
It's just this. It's very rewarding.
But that's the other thing. I think that it is now. It's becoming recognised. Suddenly, it's a career choice. It can become a vocation for people, can't it? Because beforehand, you knew what a director was, and a cameraman, people would understand that. But now that the press, interviews, articles will all often talk about the director and the partnership with their particular DOP. Everyone knows who Roger Deakins is. Go back 20 years, you wouldn't be talking about, unless you're a complete, film buff kind of thing. So it's changing, isn't it?
It really has. I sit on the interview panel at the National Film and Television School in London for new intake cinematography. We get hundreds of applicants for cinematography, and you're absolutely correct. When I was trying to find my way into cinematography, I didn't know it was a job. I didn't know women could do it. You just think, but I want to do that. But, yeah.
Yeah. Also, in Tallinn, in Baltic Film and Media School, you can see that the specialities that have gone up really in terms of the number of applicants is editing and cinematography. So I think the new YouTubing generation seems the importance of images much more, or maybe because they can't write. So they have forgotten how to write. Yeah.
They don't make very good accountants.
Good point. And the other, being at a trade show surrounded by technology, you were saying earlier that equipment manufacturers are now talking to DOPs, cinematographers, gaffers, listening to what they actually need, what you want, and it's starting to bring some, fruition. Results are coming from
They've always done that, though. I don't think that's new, actually.
Not to the extent they are now.
Yeah, fair enough.
But you're quite right. Yeah.
But they're too
in the past, they'd release a new camera, and there might be one feature on it that a cinematographer may have spoken to, but now they openly discuss it with cinematographers to determine where the camera, specific piece of technology go on the camera. So yeah, it's more a practice now for sure.
Also in terms of IMAGO, our committee for creative technologies works with. They did a survey which is ongoing. The survey can be answered online around the world among cinematographers, camera assistants, etc. What does a person who works with this piece of equipment on a daily basis need in terms of what they need from camera manufacturers? And these results of this survey are being shared with the camera manufacturers. So the idea is to get the voice of the people who actually use it on a daily basis as good as possible, because of the abundance of choices. You have so many choices nowadays, what you can have on the camera, what kind of menus you can have on the camera, etc. So you can also overwhelm the user in a way.
IMAGO is the perfect forum for any manufacturer to talk to about future technologies. The people that are available to the manufacturers is immeasurable. It's a huge number of really skilled people.
Has IMAGO changed over the past few years in the way you're talking about a lot of these things that have come along, so it's quite responsive to what is happening.
It hasn't been a quick process, but it's been quite measured in the sense that a lot of things haven't been rushed into, which is good. I think IMAGO has moved very quickly with the times in a very professional and positive way. And that's why, I'm sorry, just quickly, and that's why it's become the success it has. So it's 53 countries, and it started out as 5. And it's just expanded and expanded.
We celebrated our 25th anniversary last year. And with a wonderful event, which was IMAGO Awards for
International Awards for Cinematography.
Which has been championed by Ron, and I think we really need to thank Ron that we have this event. It was really successful, and it's probably the only award for cinematographers given by cinematographers. Because if you think of all the other, if you think of Oscars, BAFTAs, Camera Image, then in the jury usually you have producers, directors, etc. But this is we have only juries of peers, and it has been really wonderful.
And that's a big success.
It's really different way of appreciating the work, and also of course I think IMAGO started off as European Federation, but the more and more we have members from all over the world, the more global we become. and it has been received very, very positively with members pouring in from all over the world. And countries that didn't have a cinematographer society forming societies and becoming members.
Right, yes, so it enables them to do that then, yeah.
Yes.
And did you say the Iceland society might be smaller than the Estonian?
I'm not sure how many members Icelanders have now. They had 12 and we're competing. Iceland, I think we're keep competing for the smallest society. But El Salvador is, I think, forming.
Yeah.
So they probably will be.
One of the South American countries has only one or two, don't they? 2 members?
I think it's the El Salvador, but they haven't formed it officially. They will. We hope that
So
they
there's,
can.
there's strength in the solidarity in the international. For these small societies, of course, and then you have the BSC, which is huge and a major player, and bringing all those societies together, all can cross benefit.
Yeah.
And there is a fantastic initiative by ASC in America. Biannually now they organize a conference where they invite all the cinematographers. Summit where all the cinematographers come together. They discuss openly the changes that are happening. So it's not so much connected to the. We see the cutting edge technologies, but we see how actually cinematographers are using them. Yes. Not as we've been sold, but how really people working on the field are using them.
So do you think, that must help career development for everyone across the board, but it allows people to come in so much more easily, doesn't it? Because you've got those societies all around the world, then the message is spread at a local level as well as international, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, they've also seen that, so it's not just us. There's this other greater group, and we can talk to John Seal, we can talk to Roger Deakins, and so on and so forth. Suddenly the cinematographer that a lot of these emerging cinematographers and younger people have grown up with, thinking that, they're only a poster on a wall, they become accessible by being part of this umbrella group of collaboration. So it's very positive. It's really,
Where do you
really
see
good.
it going in the next few years? Are there areas you actually actively want to develop in?
Wow, there's so much.
It's just continuing to grow and to providing more benefits and more information to each and every cinematographer country who's a member. That's all. I think we can't do any more than that, except continue doing the good work we're doing.
We have been doing a directory of our members, so there is a directory where the contacts of basically almost all the cinematographers who belong to societies in the world are available, and this directory is going online. So if you're going to work somewhere abroad, somewhere far away, you can find your colleagues easily. So and also, of course, the awards definitely is one of the places where we meet and we celebrate. So this we hope we will make even better.
Is that an annual awards or biennial?
Yes. Sorry? Yeah, annual.
It'll be in Belgrade.
Belgrade.
Yes.
In 2019 in Belgrade, and I'm not sure where after. In 2020 Slovakia, I think. I'm not sure.
Anyway.
I shouldn't say too much.
There's a calendar of events that runs throughout the year, basically. So.
But we do meet on a yearly basis in our IAGO, which is yearly General Assembly, where all the societies come together, and there is a lot of energy, there is a lot of sharing. Everyone goes back to the countries, they share the ideas, what they hear. We do events like this to show ourselves, and of course we are present on the festivals. Manaki Festival, which is an oldest cinematographers festival in the world. Camerimage is a really important venue for us.
And if it improves creativity and gets people into the creative arts, then it's fantastic because it generates new blood coming in, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. And I think what is really important is this cross-Atlantic partnership, so that if there is a certain, let's say in the cinemas, there is a certain hegemony of Hollywood, that this is not some far away place where things are decided. Which we can't have any effect on. We talk with ASC. ASC is a good partner, and the more we have, the closer network we can have all over the world, the better it is for cinematographers, and the better conditions we will get to do our work.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and you all put a lot of work into this, don't you? So
not only a lot of people do. It's a very committed bunch.
Yeah.
Very committed.
That's fantastic.
And of course, it's good that Cinec let us come here and be part of this. So we're grateful to them.
And I think there's the creativity is in a very healthy place at the moment. I think do you think that there is more opportunity for people to be creative? With all the streaming channels on TV now, the web.
Yeah, there is. There is. I think there is there's a chance that some of the smaller film schools could produce technicians that may have trouble getting work, because it is a pie. There's only a limited number of pieces you can take from that pie, and that needs to be monitored very carefully. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's the film industry, that we're talking about, and that's absolutely correct. But on another level, like you say, there are, it's a different world, and there are multiple platforms for, and new things will emerge, and it is more open creatively. We both know that, we all know small people, age 6, who can make a film on their iPhone, and they're literate. I'm not saying that's going to win an Oscar or a BAFTA, probably not, but the fact they can do it is very interesting. It's actually interesting. Different relationship to accessibility of image, actually. So it's interesting.
Sorry, Nina.
No, please.
One of the other good things is that the public, the general punters who put their bums on seats, are more aware of what goes on now because of technology. And there's the mystery of filmmaking, and the cinematographer was a big part of the mystery. What went on once it got into that camera, what happens to it, nobody knew, only one or two people knew, and so that part of the mystery is now open to everybody. And I think that can only be a good thing. When people sit in a cinema and they understand what you've gone through to get that image to where it is, that can only be a good thing. They appreciate it more.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Pleasure.
And
I hope Nina wasn't too overbearing.
I'd love to be in one of your board meetings one day.
Yes, they're fun.
Thanks very much for
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.